All right. So today we're doing 6.3, another form of factoring. We're looking at factoring our perfect square trinomials. Now, 75% of the notes is really kind of review. And you're doing page 271, 1 through 55 odd. 75% of this is review, getting you ready for your thinking. And so at first you can just kind of do some of the warm-ups, if you want to just call it a warm-up. So, in fact, this page, you don't even have to write it. Let's just take a minute and listen to what I'm doing. So if I have a square and I'm squaring it, right? If I'm trying to find the area of the square, we know that if it's a square, it's the same measurement. So if that measurement is 2x plus 3, so is that. Okay, that's the same thing as writing 2x plus the quantity of 2x plus 3 squared. What does that really mean? 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. Now, originally we had said you can double distribute, you can FOIL first. We get 4x squared, right? Then we get our outside, right? Our outside, which is plus 6x. Our inside, which is plus 6x. And then our last, which is plus 9, right? Multiplying, and that comes to 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. But then I showed you a shortcut. And I showed you that when you have 2x plus 3 and it's a binomial square, okay? Let's put that equal sign there. We can square the first one. What is it? 4x squared. Louis, square the last term. 9. And if we take that, both those terms, here and here, 2x times 3, what do I get? 6x. Okay, 6x. If I multiply those two terms together, I get 6x. And then if I double that, what do we get? 12x. Plus 12x. Okay, I'm just reminding you, where does that come from? It comes from here. That creates 6x. And this creates the 6x. You guys remembering that? Yeah. So that's my shortcut, and there should be a plus sign there. Okay, so now let's go and just practice. This is not the notes. We're not doing this yet. This is what we call a perfect square trinomial. So let's just practice that. We square the first term. What is it, Imani?
X to the second.
Good. Square the last term, Imani.
25.
Good. Okay, now, when you multiply 5 and x together, we get 5x. If we double it, what does that come to, Imani?
10x.
So that's plus 10x, and that was a positive 25. Okay, let's try it again. Ready? Turner, square the first one.
M squared.
Good. Square the last term. And remember, it's what kind of 4?
Plus 4.
Positive 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Now multiply those together.
Negative 2m.
And when we double it, what do we get?
Negative 4.
Got it? Okay, next one. Vic.
So you have negative...
Square the first one.
14x.
No, don't do that. We're squaring 2x.
4x squared.
4x squared. Square the last one.
And then 49.
Positive 49. Now, multiply them together.
14x.
Double it.
Times, and then equals 28.
Plus 28x. Okay, pause the recording and you try the next 3. Call it the warm-up. Okay, Gideon, start me off. The first one is...
Okay, so that would be 4k to the second. And then at the end, it would be plus 25. And then it would... Okay, and then in the middle... Okay,
Okay, who has the middle term? John?
10k.
Okay, so together it makes 10k. Negative 10k?
Negative 10k.
Is that what I put in the middle? No, I have to double it. Okay, so it's negative 20k. Every time you're doubling it, I'm multiplying negative 5 and 2k. That's my shortcut to get the middle term. Okay? Try it again. Go, Gideon.
Okay, so that would be 9t to the second.
Last term.
16.
Middle term.
12k.
12t.
12t, and then you double that, that would be 24t.
Okay, next one, Jean. First term.
121,
Good. Last term.
negative y squared,
Okay, negative y times negative y makes
positive y,
positive y squared. Be careful. Keep going.
negative 11y. I mean, negative 22.
Negative 22y. Now be careful. So when you see a minus sign in the binomial, it will always be this negative positive pattern. It will always be that. The first one will be negative and the second one will be positive. Okay, questions? All right, so we're gonna, this is still warm up. Can you stop with the sounds? Okay, now draw a line in your notes. On the left side, you're gonna call it trinomial, perfect square trinomials. Perfect square trinomials. And on the right side, you're gonna write the notes. And take a look for a minute at what the rule is. So the rule, right, you're going like this. You don't need to write follow the pattern. We're calling this perfect square trinomials. Okay? And this is equal to a squared. Look at the notes that you're putting on the right side. It's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So in other words, if I have x plus 5, the quantity of x plus 5 squared, it's going to be x squared plus 2 times 5x, which would be 10x, plus 5 squared, which is 25. If I have y minus 3 squared, it would be y squared at the beginning. 2 times negative 3y would be negative 6y, and negative 3 squared would be... Now, notice, look at the last term. Look at my notes up here. Look up here. Ready? If that's the last term, notice the middle coefficient is twice that. Okay? And notice the last term is the square of that. Please write those down in your notes. And then draw a line. Pause the recording. You're writing all of that, and then you're going to draw. All right, so here we go. You're in your homework, and you get your question. You're like, oh, wow, that's a perfect square. Oh, wow, that's a perfect square, too. Let me see if I can factor it as a perfect square trinomial. Well, I know that. What is the root of m squared? M. What's the root of 36? 6. It's a plus plus, so let's see, does that work? I'm going to check myself. When you multiply 6m together, 6m, double it, do I get the middle term? Oh, okay, that's the factoring for it. So why don't you guys try the next one, go. Try factoring the next one.
On the left, we write factor.
I said write perfect square trinomial. It doesn't matter, whatever. What does it factor to? Okay. Okay. Let's go with Miriam. What did you get? Y minus 7, because the root of y squared is y. The root of 49 is 7. To get that negative there, it would have to be a minus, and it's the y minus 7 squared. Now, what does that mean? That means y minus 7 times y minus 7. Okay, could you have done this? You could have done it like this. Just write your two binomials right away and gone, oh, okay, the root of that is m. The root of that is 6. And then it's a plus plus. Yes?
So if we're doing, like, if we answer it, doesn't matter if we do it like two separate answers or
I don't
like,
care.
squared.
I don't care. But we want to learn to recognize our perfect square trinomials. So, what does this one factor to? Raising a quiet hand. Okay, Alphast? The first term is x. What's the root of 4? 2. And to get that minus sign, would it be x minus 2? Squared. You guys with me? Next one, Greta.
It's going to be y minus 5 squared.
Minus?
Oh, no, plus 5 squared.
The quantity of y plus 5 squared. Okay, the next one, who thinks they have it? Dion.
T minus 9 squared.
Good. Okay, I'm going to let you do yours. Try the rest. Now, I'm going to tell you, be careful. Check your middle term. If it doesn't follow the format, like multiplying them together and then doubling it, then you say not factorable. Okay? So just be careful. Pause the recording and finish the rest on your own. So, number 4, please. Vic?
I got y plus 10 squared.
The quantity of y plus 10 squared. Good. The next one, Jean.
2x plus 9 squared. I mean, yeah, the quantity of 2x plus 9.
Not 9 plus
3.
3 squared. Now, you got to check yourself. 2x. Okay, 2x times 3 times negative 3 makes negative 6x. Double that, what do we get? Negative 12x. Is that in the center? So yes, he factored it correctly, except for that negative. Okay, next. Go, RJ. Not factorable. Shh. Okay, 28's not a perfect square. The next one. Go, Jonah.
The quantity of t minus 4 squared.
Good. And then the last one, Maxime.
Not factorable.
Not factorable. Why? Can it factor to 3k plus 2 squared?
Well, if you multiplied 3 by 2, it would be 6 already, but then you have
6k, and then we have to double it. What should that middle be? 12k. If that were factorable, it would have to be a 12k. If it were a perfect square trinomial. All right, we're going to skip these for now. Okay, now notice, I'm going to do the first one. If I divide the 6 by 2, here's another way to think of these. When you divide the 6 by 2, what do we get? 3. So the quantity of this is equal to x plus 3 squared. If I square that result and I put it in the box, what would go in the box? 9. Right? Well, I'm asking you to divide this number by 2. What do you get? 6. So this is going to be m plus 6. If I square then that last term, like we said in our last set of notes, what do I get? 36. So this is equal to this. Factors to this. Try the next one. Go. All right, let's try. It's called completing the square. We're really going to work with this at the end of the book, but I just kind of wanted to get your head thinking that way. So what did you get for the next one? Go, Alphast. What on the right, what does it factor to?
It factors to the quantity of y plus 9 squared.
Y plus 9 squared. And in the box, what does it multiply to when I square that second term?
81.
Positive 81. Get the idea?
We do one more.
Get it.
Okay, we're gonna go on to the rest of the notes because I want to make sure we have it. We can always come back. So yesterday you had some notes, and I asked you to make a list and keep room. So today we're working on number 3. Go back to those notes and label it perfect square trinomial. Perfect square trinomial. Go back to your notes from yesterday. All right. So now this is where we're going to be. This is how it's going to look. Look at our chart. Okay? Okay? The first thing we do, we start with a problem. And then the very first thing we do is the GCF. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is that GCF. Okay, once we take out the GCF, we end up with either a binomial, a trinomial, or something with more than 3 terms. I call that other. Okay, we talked about that the only kind of binomial we can factor is a difference of squares. Okay, that would look like, x squared minus 25. You don't need to write this. I'm just I would be pointing it out up there, but I have the recording. And if it's a trinomial, here's one of 3 kinds. And the format is, it's a perfect square, where I have a perfect square, and the middle term, the root of that is x, the root of that is 12. And if I multiplied those 2 together, I get 12x and double it, I should get that middle term. That's what we're working on today. Okay? But the very first thing we always do is we find our GCF, if there is one. So let's go with Karen. Is there a GCF in the first problem?
Yes, it's
5. So when I factor out of 5, what's left?
5 times the quantity of x squared plus 6x plus 8. Oh,
What?
9.
9. Okay, now can x squared plus 6x plus 9 be factored? Yes, because it's a perfect square trinomial. Everybody say it.
Perfect square trinomial.
And what does that factor to? Okay, I know that looks like a perfect square, so it's an x. And that looks like a perfect square, that would be a 3. I have a plus sign, I think it would be squared. If you keep forgetting that second binomial or writing the squared, then you better write it like this. Okay? You can write it like that, or you can write it like this. Okay? Okay, next. Whoops, what happened there? Okay, the next one, how do I break this down? This becomes an x squared. It looks like a perfect square. Is this a perfect square? Ford, what sign goes in the middle?
Minus.
Minus. Okay, I can do that. Like, see, so I've got an x squared. I can write it. Well, I told you we can write it like this, right?
Yeah.
We can write it like that. But what does that really mean? That means this. You should be writing these. Nobody's just staring. Am I done?
It's about the first question.
Okay, you're going to have to hold it. Why don't you finish this for me? So now what would I do?
So,
It's mixing yesterday and today. Okay, RJ, what would I do here?
X plus 2
X plus 2.
times the quantity of x minus 2.
And this one breaks down to?
X plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 2.
Now, once you've broken it down, you may summarize it and put the x plus 2's, right, in one pile and square it. And then put the x minus 2's squared. Now you may write it like this, or you may write it like this. These answers are equivalent. Okay? I'm going to pause the recording for a minute. Okay, so the question was, how is x plus 2 times x minus 2 equal x plus 2 squared? It's not. We're putting the ones in yellow into one group and the ones in green into one group. Now, earlier today, I had a student that just, actually, never mind. All right, let's go on to the next couple. Shh. Okay. Let's start with, what's our first step? Actually, why don't we pause it? I'm going to give you 2 minutes to get started on it ahead of me. Go. Pause the recording. So, on the first problem, I want to hear from some other people. Okay, Ethan, why don't you start me off? What's the first step?
So for the first part, I got 3 times the quantity of x squared. No, because 3 is the greatest common factor. So
Good.
it'd be 3 times the quantity of x squared minus 8x plus 16.
Okay. Now, if you want to write what I'm going to write on the left, on my right, you can write it next to it so you have it for your notes. Right here, this was the GCF. Okay? You could write it to the right, you could write it to the left in the column. Okay? What would be the next thing that I would do? Okay, keep going, Ethan.
So after that, because then since you can factor it down, it can be 3 times the quantity of x squared minus 4 squared.
Close. What's the root of x squared?
X.
And so we would do x minus 4 squared. Okay? And that is perfect square trinomial factoring. Okay? Okay, questions? Okay, Lily.
I'm kind of confused what to do on the second one.
Okay, well,
I know that
how about this? Instead of just going to the 1, what's the root of this? I'm noticing it's a perfect square. X what?
x squared.
Yep. What's the root of this? 1. To get that minus sign there, what are we going to put?
For the first one, wait, what do you mean to get the minus?
I notice there's a minus sign here.
Oh, for the first one to plus 1, the second would be minus.
No, if it's plus 1, minus 1, the middle term would disappear. So the only way to get that minus sign there is to have both be minus. Okay, in a trinomial, if the first one is minus, so really what this means is x squared minus 1 squared. But you can expand it out like this. I could have gone right to this. Okay, I could have gone right to this. What's the root of that? It's x squared. What's the root of that? It's 1. To get that there, that it would have to be minus and squared. But I'm still going to end up having to expand it out. Okay? Now, I have to break that down. It's a difference of squares. Going back to yesterday's lesson. How do I break that down, Lily?
Do x plus 1 and then times x minus 1.
Good. And the next one?
X plus 1
X plus 1, x minus 1. Now, I could stop there, or I could say, go,
X plus 1 squared and x
times the quantity of,
x minus 1.
okay? All right, that is our lesson for today. And wait, let me just, Mark, hold on. So this would just be factoring. Perfect square trinomial, right? Stop. And the next one would be difference of squares. Okay? That's what we're doing here. All right? And that is our lesson.